Here's a truth that'll shake you. Divorced men over 50 have a suicide rate 9 times higher than divorced women. 9 times. Brother, if you're thinking about ending your marriage after 50 because you're tired of the same old routine, because you want to reinvent your life, because you think there's something better out there, you need to understand what you're actually walking into. I know you felt this. The exhaustion of 30 years with the same person, the fantasy of starting over, finding someone younger, having that excitement again. The belief that divorce is the path to freedom and a better life. Fellas, what I'm about to tell you isn't easy to hear, but it might save your life. Because the brutal reality of grey divorce for men over 50 isn't what you think it is. And if you make this decision based on the myth instead of the reality, you're about to destroy everything you've built for a future that doesn't exist. Grey divorce means divorce for people 50 and older. And it's exploding across our generation. Boomers and Gen Xers now make up 40% of all divorces. That's nearly doubled since the 1990s. Here's why it's happening. You spend 20 or 30 years raising kids, managing careers, handling life's chaos. The kids finally leave. You're heading into retirement, and suddenly you're looking at another 20 or 30 years with the same person and thinking, is this it? You're tired, bored, feeling like you missed out on something, fantasizing about a different kind of relationship than the one you've had for decades. So you think, new life, new wife, new everything. Problem solved. Except that's not how it works. Here's the brutal financial reality nobody tells you. Women over 50 experience a 45% drop in standard of living after divorce. Men experience a 21% drop. Think about that. You're heading into retirement, the time when you're supposed to be enjoying the wealth you've accumulated, and suddenly you're living on roughly 80% of what you had before. That's not minor. That's the difference between comfortable retirement and scraping by. Divorce erodes your retirement savings. Your home equity gets split. Your investment accounts get divided. You go from building wealth together to each trying to survive separately on half the resources. And here's what really happens. 27% of women who get grey divorced fall into poverty. More than 1 out of 4 women who thought they were improving their lives end up below the poverty line. Only 22% of women over 50 remarry or cohabitate after divorce. So this fantasy that you're going to trade up, find someone better, start fresh, the statistics say that's not reality for most people. Now let's talk about the health consequences. Divorced adults over 50 have significantly higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, depression, and disability. Both men and women experience weight changes, disrupted sleep, and weakened immune systems after grey divorce. Women face higher cardiovascular problems, but here's where it gets deadly serious for men. Divorced men over 50 have an elevated suicide risk that is nearly 9 times higher than divorced women and their married counterparts. 9 times. Let me say that again because it's the single most important statistic in this entire conversation. Divorced men over 50 are 9 times more likely to commit suicide than divorced women. Why? Loss of structure, loss of community, loss of identity. You spent decades building a life as part of a couple. Your social circle was built around being married. Your routine was built around family. Your identity was built around being a husband, a father, a provider. Divorce strips all of that away. And men, unlike women, don't have the same support networks. Women have friends they talk to, support systems they've maintained, social connections outside the marriage. Men, we've got work buddies and golf partners, not people we share our feelings with. So when the marriage ends, you're not just losing a wife. You're losing your entire framework for understanding who you are. And that psychological deep loss of identity is the most devastating part of grey divorce. You go from being part of we in your 20s to being alone again in your 50s or 60s, except you're not 20 anymore. You don't have the energy, the social skills, the dating market appeal you had back then. You don't bounce back the same way. And the myth you've been sold, the dream of trading up for some young hot thing and starting a fantastic new life, that's exactly what it is. A myth. The reality is you step out of a relationship you've known for decades into isolation, health problems, financial struggle, and for far too many men, despair so deep it leads to suicide. Let me be clear about something. If you're in an abusive relationship, if you need to get out for your emotional safety or physical safety, that's different. This isn't about staying in a relationship that's actively harming you. But if you're thinking about divorce because you're just bored, because you want something new, because you think the grass is greener, you need to understand you're jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. Here's what people don't understand until they're sitting in a divorce attorney's office. Nobody ever comes in and says, you know what? I'm the problem in my marriage. Not one person. It's always the other person's fault. Always. But here's the truth. Wherever you go, there you are. Your patterns follow you. Your issues follow you. Your problems follow you. If you get divorced and remarry, you're bringing all your baggage into that new relationship. And statistically, second marriages fail at even higher rates than first marriages, because the common denominator in all your relationships is you. So before you blow up your life chasing some fantasy, let me give you an alternative that actually works. Decide you want a new marriage with your current spouse. Not a new spouse, a new marriage. Here's your framework for making this decision. Step 1. Get honest about what you actually want. Not what you think you want. Not the fantasy. What do you actually want for the last 20 or 30 years of your life? Do you want isolation and financial struggle? Do you want to start over alone in your 60s? Or do you want to rebuild something better with someone who already knows you? Step 2. Take a hard look in the mirror. What are your patterns that are keeping you stuck? What are you bringing to the relationship that's making it miserable? Because I guarantee you're part of the problem. We all are. The question is whether you're willing to look at yourself honestly instead of blaming everything on her. Step 3. Talk to divorced men who are 3 to 5 years out, not the guys who just left and are in the honeymoon phase of freedom. The guys who've lived through the reality. Ask them if it was worth it. Ask them what they lost. Ask them what they wish they'd known. Step 4. Calculate the actual cost. Write down what your life looks like financially if you divorce. Half your retirement, half your assets, child support or alimony if applicable. 2 households instead of 1. Legal fees. Look at the numbers without fantasy. Is that the retirement you want? Step 5. Commit to creating a new marriage with your current spouse for 6 months. Not half-hearted, not going through the motions. Full commitment. Go to couples therapy. Start dating each other again. Find new shared activities. Have real conversations about what you both want for the next chapter. Rebuild intimacy. Break the patterns that have made you roommates instead of partners. Give it 6 real months. Step 6. Evaluate honestly after 6 months. If nothing changed despite real effort from both of you, you have important information. If things are better, keep building. But don't make the decision to divorce without at least trying to rebuild with the person you already have history with. Because here's what successful couples who make it through this phase understand. You can have a new life with your current spouse. You can break old patterns. You can create new dynamics. You can reinvent your relationship. It takes 2 people willing to do the work. But it's possible. And it's a hell of a lot better than the alternative of being alone, broke, and statistically at serious risk of severe depression or worse. This is the person you coupled up with decades ago. You have history. You have family. You probably have kids. You've built something together. Why not start building a new chapter together, instead of throwing it all away for a fantasy that statistics show rarely works out the way you imagine? The question isn't whether you have enough reasons to leave. The question is whether you have the courage to choose rebuilding over running. Everything you need to create a better marriage is already inside you. The wisdom that comes from decades together, the knowledge of each other that no new relationship will have, the foundation you've already built. Stop waiting for her to change. Stop hoping things will magically improve. Stop convincing yourself that divorce is the path to happiness when the statistics scream otherwise. Make the decision to be the man who chose to rebuild, instead of the man who destroyed everything chasing a myth. Look at those statistics again. 9 times higher suicide rate. 21% drop in standard of living. Higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, depression. That's what you're choosing if you walk away without trying to rebuild first. Be the man who looked in the mirror, got honest about his own shit, and had the courage to create something new with someone who already knows him. That's the man you'll respect in the mirror. That's the man who builds a retirement worth living, instead of surviving alone in the wilderness. Your life is waiting for you to make a real decision instead of chasing a fantasy that doesn't exist.